Welcome to Cape Connect. Cape Connect is a show about businesses, Cape issues, people, personalities, and possibilities, and wonderful possibilities for our show today because we have Susan Shoch. You'll hear as we talk about things that I've just begun to learn a little bit about, her careers. Early on as a personality on TV, and we'll talk about that. And of course, a long career as a special ed teacher with more than a few opinions about what's wrong and what could be improved today in our educational system. And then finally, of course, a new career. And you are staging houses. And we'll hear all about how to beautify a house or how to make it be wanted.
Well, that's the goal.
Yeah. So where should we start? Should we begin at the very beginning and work forward or work backward?
Let's work from what we do now. I mean, I think that I think the thing that's so interesting is that when I did retire after 30 years, I didn't know what I was going to do. And it's a scary thing to retire.
Yeah.
And I taught it an extra year just because I was a single woman and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I can tell people that, one, you don't have enough time, which everybody tells you after you retire, and two, when you close one door, another door opens.
Well, what happens to the time? Where does it go?
Don't know where it goes, but it does go.
Yeah.
So what happened was my mother we'd had a business in West Harwich, and my mother had sold that after my dad died, and I moved her into a condo, and so I needed to place myself up here. So I bought a cottage, and I basically furnished it from yard sales and thrift stores. And I was at my hairdresser's, and Linda said to me, you need to go to the treasure chest, because I told her I needed an iron. I hadn't found one. And I said, what thrift store is that? And she said, it's not a thrift store. It's the transfer station swap shop for Harwich.
Oh, well, I'm a Harwich resident, and so I've
it's on Queen Anne's Road.
Mm-hmm.
So I left the hairdressers and went directly there, found my iron, which happened to be a really good European model, and said to the woman, why I can pay you for this. And she said, no, take it. She said, because if there's stuff that's good, we have to pay for everything to be brought off Cape as far as trash is concerned. So this way we save money for the towns. So I said, I bet you I could do a house over. And that was my goal. My goal was to find a house to redo and furnish exclusively with stuff from the swap shops. I've done 5. Now some of them are family houses that needed to be fixed up, and we fixed them up and staged them with my stuff. But the best part, Al, was the first house we did, when we had the finished product ready to go, we had all the people, all the volunteers from the 3 swap shops that I went to, Harwich, Dennis, and Yarmouth. I invited them all to a party, using invitations, by the way, that I got at the swap shop. And we had, wine and beer and snacks. Everything that I served, all the platters that the hors d'oeuvres were on, all the glassware, all came from the swap shop, and the outfit I wore came from the swap shop. So that was my goal, and now we've done 5.
My goodness, and those people love to do the work themselves. They're volunteers, but you go in there, and occasionally you see some people that are in the neighborhood trying to grab up the first things that come in out of the car. You're not allowed to get into the car, are you?
It's got.
They have rules. They can't take anything out of the trunk, but once it's out of the trunk, it's fair game.
I mean, at one time it used to be a little bit more. It was easier to take something from somebody when they got there, but now they pretty much watch it because people got out of control. Yeah. But the best story, and I think the point of this whole swap shop thing is there was a family there, and a little girl was skipping. I mean, she was so excited. She was skipping up into the air. And her dad was carrying a dresser, a little girl's dresser, back to put in the car. And she's going, "Oh, Daddy, I'm so excited. I can take my clothes out of my, the grocery bags, and I can put them in drawers." And I thought, that's the point of this, too, is, I take things and I reupholster them, I paint them, I reuse them in different ways. But it's there for the people who can't, afford something, and a little girl can have a dresser.
That's wonderful. And how did people get in touch with you? I mean, how did the 5 people that you finally helped?
We have a presentation that we put together with some before and after pictures that we had done. And we've done some where we've gone to, sometimes real estate agencies are having a meeting with all the agents, and they've asked us to make a presentation, and we've done that. Sometimes word of mouth. I've had some friends up here who are realtors, so that they've called me when they've needed a house cleaned out or staged or just cleaned up. It's amazing. I just sold my house in Pennsylvania. I thought I had done a really good job of staging my own house.
Yes, of course.
And so then my realtor and the cameraman come to take the pictures, and she's whipping stuff out of the room faster than I can say, "What are you doing?" And she said, the cleaner it is, the better. People don't want to see your family pictures in the room when they're there to see your house.
They'll pay attention to the details of the family and ask
Absolutely.
you, not about the house, but about your life.
They'll look at your tchotchkes, they'll look at your collections, they'll look at your family pictures, but they won't see the house. So the point is to see the house.
Yeah.
So, we've helped people privately, if they're thinking of selling their house, we've consulted with friends and people. We've also had realtors contact us.
Yeah. Well, you seem to have a talent that was bred by earlier experiences, I imagine.
Well, it's just been something that's evolved. It's just, as I said, you retire from one career that you've done for a long time, and something else comes up, and all of a sudden it seems to be something that you're good at. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking about education now, because as you know, I'm a retired science professor at college universities, but in summertime I would often teach people from public school, the teachers that were teaching, and mostly I was paying attention to the subject matter, but I think that they also need to have some kind of help in the presentation to their classes. It's more than just the facts that you're trying to get in science and math. It's really people trying to appreciate what's the value of it. Why are we learning this?
Well, I think it's gotten more difficult, and it's gotten certainly more complicated, and I'm not sure that in our complicating the educational system, we've made it better for learning. It was interesting when I was thinking about coming here, and I think it was Socrates who said that children should be allowed to play exclusively till they're 10. And I thought, wow, we don't even let them play in kindergarten. We have them working hard when they're 5 years old.
Well, they're programmed now in a way that they weren't before. I mean, I certainly, for my kids, see a difference that's happening with respect to what's going on compared to the grandkids. The grandkids are being, sent to this special place. They've got programs. And before you just said, okay, come back, supper time, see your friends.
Exactly. I mean, we had to make our own worlds up. I mean, my mother sent me out the door. Now, I understand it's a different world. I lived out in the country when I was a little girl, and, there was nobody out there but cows and horses and, deer and wild animals. But, we made our own play. We entertained ourselves. And I think our kids today, all of the entertainment comes from the outside to them through some kind of screen, either their phones, which they have at an ungodly early age, or their tablets or the TV. And then when they get to school, we say to them, okay, now you're going to have to write a story using, your imagination, and they can't because they've never developed one. So I think that, we've complicated education so much, and we are testing our kids to the nth degree.
Well, No Child Left Behind had really come in and said each state has got to do that. And so, as you know, Massachusetts has MCAS.
Yeah, well,
and,
we have the Pennsylvania assessment
they
test
keep
in
on
Pennsylvania.
going through, and if you don't pass them in 10th grade, you got to keep working at it, or else you're not going to graduate.
Well, and I
they,
think
they push.
Yeah, well, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, I know that when I was doing it, I had children who were in 5th grade legitimately by age, but academically were behind. So I had worked for an entire year to make them feel good about themselves and that they'd made progress and that they were really learning, and self-esteem is so much a part of education. And then for 10 days in March, I made them sit in front of a test that was a 5th grade test, and they were supposed to do the math and the reading on a 5th grade level because they were in 5th grade.
Yeah.
And
that wasn't working, was it?
I had one little girl one time. She just sat there. She put her feet up on the desk, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I just can't do this." And she just threw it on the floor, and I knew she couldn't do it. And at one time we were able to excuse kids if their levels were really low, but below the grade level. Now they have to take them. So in 10 days, the states can make a child feel really, really badly about themselves again after we've built them up for an entire year. And I used to say to the powers that be, I have kids reading on a 3rd grade level, and they're 10. Let me give them the 3rd grade test.
Yeah.
That will measure what their skills are. Nope, they had to take a 5th grade test.
Yeah.
So, and I think that we explain too much to kids too soon. The joke where the little boy comes home from school and he says to his mother, Mommy, where did I come from?" And so the mother goes, "Oh boy, I just didn't want to be telling them this early in life." So she goes through the whole facts of life thing, and this little guy's looking up at her and he goes, No, Johnny came from Pittsburgh. Where did I come from?"
That was what he needed to know.
Right, that's all he wanted to know. And I think that we explain everything to kids. There was a great thing on YouTube that showed a little girl who was doing 3-digit addition, the way we traditionally did it. And then she had to do it the Common Core way so that it could prove she understood it.
Well, that's the new testing system. The states got together and they said, enough of this No Child Left Behind. We're going to write our own better system, and there would be a test at the end as to whether you're qualified to go on to college or a career. And
and I think that there's a degree of, I think the idea of a Common Core that everybody gets in a public education is not a bad idea. Unfortunately, it's gotten muddied up with being able to explain everything you know. I don't think when I first was taught how to add or subtract or multiply or divide even, that I completely understood it. It was kind of a rote thing. I learned my times tables because I just had to learn them. And now they have to understand it. But we don't necessarily teach that memorization, which I think is an important part. I think memorization is a brain tool that our kids are missing out on. But anyway, so this little girl does a simple addition problem of two 3-digit numbers in 5 seconds. Then she turns the paper over and does the Common Core explanation for that problem. It made very little sense to me.
yeah.
And I understand the whole concept of it. And I thought, really, does an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old really need to know that much about that right then? And I think that that's the problem. Sometimes the problems take 3 times that much time for something that we don't need to explain that much.
Yeah. And as you say, there's also the problem of people being promoted into levels that they can't function any longer.
Well, I think the idea that there's no child left behind is ludicrous. I mean, we're going to have children who aren't going to learn, nor do they need to read War and Peace, for example.
Well, when I was doing a postdoc, I had some extra time, and I was in the community helping out over at the center where people came, and so I got a reputation of being able to tutor a little bit. And one night, knock on the door, and this fellow, burly guy, comes in and said, can you teach me how to read? Now, I was talking to somebody who was in the 8th grade, and I said, well, I mean, I can help you a little, but he had been promoted year after year, and he literally could not read. He couldn't read at all.
Yeah.
And so I began to try and figure out, how do you teach him? And so instead of ABC or the cow jumped over the moon or any kind of stuff like that, I said, well, look, let's see if we can start learning some words that you need to know when you're looking for the right bus coming along. And in fact, why don't you tell me how to change a tire? Well, he knew how to change a tire and everything, and so we began, writing about the things that he knew. Didn't get very far in the lessons because he got arrested for some, obviously he was into other things too, and I never got a chance to complete that education. But knowledge is important, I really believe, but if you don't play, if the kids don't play, if they don't have time in the schoolyard, because you learn stuff there, don't you?
Well, I think that that's really an important issue. And I think our kids, as I said earlier, spend so much time in front of their screens that their social interactions are less. And I think that's why we're seeing such an increase in bullying. It's so easy to bully somebody with a keypad, where it's much harder to have to look a person in the eye and bully them. And, I know that when I was teaching, we stopped morning recess for our 5 to 8 to 9 and 10-year-olds because they had to be on task. They could have snack at like 10, but they had to do review papers or something. They had to have some kind of a fun game that they were playing at their desks. And what they really needed to do was go out and run around the playground. And they took it away from our kids too, and these are children that we're talking about. They're not in college, and they need to be able to get up and move around, and not every child can sit in a desk.
Yeah, well,
nor should they.
Yeah, they're both things are needed. The play, the feeling at ease, learning social skills, feeling good about yourself, all of those things are important, and the knowledge that you get. And there's been an increase in trying to teach science with something called STEM. You may be familiar. That's
I'm not.
The S stands for science, the T stands for technology, the E stands for education, the M stands for math, and so that's STEM. And a few people came along and said, and there's a lot of money given in grants and now people came along and said, well, wait a minute, how about the arts? We'll turn STEM into STEAM, S-T-E-A-M.
Yeah.
And so again, money flows. The better projects are ones in which you're doing something. You're working with some groups together, rather than just pouring some knowledge into somebody's head.
Right, and I think you have to look at it as how these disciplines interact. Nothing is done in a vacuum. And we had a wonderful project that we did when I was teaching, and we had gotten a grant, the group of us that taught 4th grade, and we were supposed to teach world geography and world science and oceanography and that kind of stuff. And so we developed this concept called Big Blue. And there were 5 of us, so the kids rotated through the 5 of us, so they each saw one of us every week. And one fellow did all of the, kind of hardcore teaching of the social studies. the map skills and that kind of stuff. One gal did all the arts. She did arts from Japan. If we were studying Asia, she did the Asian stuff. If we did European, she did arts of Europe. And it was just amazing what she came up with. And I did the map. I painted a wall at the back of the school that was all blue and green to start with.
Yeah.
And then as we worked our way through the continents, the kids had to do the legend of the map, and they had to come up with what kind of animals were we going to use to talk about, rainforest versus deserts versus mountains and that kind of stuff. And then I did the map skills so that they had to be able to draw the world map when we were done. So the first day they came into my room, I gave them each an empty piece of paper. And I said, how many of you have had a world map hanging in your classroom since kindergarten? Everybody raised their hand. So I had the map up there, I put it up, and I said, okay, draw it. And I want you to label the 7 continents, the 5 oceans, and the lines of longitude and latitude. I had some really disturbed children, and I said, I'm not grading them.
Yeah.
I'm putting these in a folder. We're going to put it away.
Aha.
And come June, you're going to draw the map again. That's all it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so then we did calisthenics every morning. When they came into the room, the first thing we did was our calisthenics. And the calisthenics we did jumping jacks, and we had to name the continents as we did them.
Huh.
Then we did head, shoulders, waist, and the waist was the equator and the Tropic of Capricorn, and I told them about their kneecaps, and so we did it all. So then it comes time for them to draw the map at the end, and it was so cute, Al, because the kids would be drawing the map. They'd get the map out, they'd get their ruler, and then you'd see them stand up, and they would do, and then they'd sit down and write it down. So, movement along with memorization gave them all the ability to draw this map incredibly well. I was so proud of them.
Yeah. My goodness.
It was a great project.
Yeah, well, some of these things should be saved. I think it's more fun to talk about these things, but the real value for generations now would be to have things like that recorded and all.
Well, I know when I spell encyclopedia, I sing it like I did on the Mickey Mouse Club when I watched it when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about TV shows that we liked. I mean, there's Mr. Rogers. Did you?
I didn't know Mr. Rogers, but he certainly was a wonderful calming influence on kids. Captain Kangaroo.
Captain, say it right, Captain Kangaroo.
Right.
And
I watched him. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was on a long time.
Yeah. And who else would be your favorite?
Well, there was Miss Frances of Ding Dong School. I remember that. I watched that as a kid.
Yeah.
Because I grew up outside of New York. So who did we have? We had Pinky Lee. He was, I don't know whether he was just a New York personality or whether he was national.
But now they have so many cartoons, and a few cartoons, fine, but if you don't see the actors as live people as a kid, are you getting as much from the experience?
I don't know. I think that, I did Romper Room, and, it was...
Let's talk about Romper Room. Yeah, we got 3 minutes left to our show.
Okay.
Romper Room. You were the lady with the magic mirror.
I was the lady with the magic mirror in the Philadelphia market, and the premise of Romper Room is that you had a preschool on TV in every market so that local children could come and be on the show.
Uh-huh.
And that was I had 6 children every show.
Young kids.
4 and 5-year-olds.
Oh, yeah.
It was an hour kindergarten show.
Yeah.
We had art projects, and I always read a story, and we had, an art board that they could send in their artwork, and I would display it like a teacher would in a classroom.
Uh-huh. And you taught politeness?
There was Mr. Don't Be and Mr. Do Be.
Oh, Doobie. Doobie is...
Doobie is what you want to be. You want to.
But it's a
It was a bee. Oh,
It's a
there was
bee.
there was some poor young girl in the studio who she got to be the one to dress up as a bee, and she would buzz in once a week, and there was a doobie, don't be bored, and on that we would say, you know, do be polite, don't be rude, or that. I mean, I'm not sure that was it. I think they were more clever than that, but and then you know we would talk about what it meant to be a doobie. And your goal was to be a doobie. And if you wrote to me, I would send you a plastic doobie ring.
Oh my!
And a postcard, lucky you.
Yeah, for heaven's sake.
It was fun. It was a great experience.
Yeah, well, that program went on for almost 50 years throughout the country with different regional ladies with a magic mirror. What's this lady with a magic mirror doing? She's looking through it or at
Well,
it?
at the end of every show, you got the mirror came out, and it was a mirror that was, you know, a solid mirror, kind of like a Cinderella mirror, and there was a swirling of the camera, and I would say, I forget what I said, something about magic mirror, tell me today, have all my friends had fun at play, and as I was saying this, then the swirling would come up on the camera. I'd put the mirror down that was solid and hold up the mirror that was able to see through to the kids, and then I would see kids at home.
And that would be what you would do. Yeah.
And that would be what I would do.
Well, let's end our show with, you know,
Seeing our friends at home.
Yeah, friends at home. We'll be seeing you again on Cape Connect, and wouldn't it be wonderful if the lady with the mirror came back? And thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Susan
Al. It was a
Shoch.
pleasure.
It was really fun. Yeah.
It was good.
Thanks.
There we go.